Hi everyone, this is the sprint review retro for sprint 141 for SugarLearning and the planning for sprint 142. So as per my conversation with the team, these are sprint goals that we were attempting to achieve. Company add default language setting. This is to allow the emails to go out in accordance with the settings, the language settings for a company. This PR has been approved. It has not yet been deployed. With the second sprint goal, test for items repository was successfully achieved. This was a 1-week sprint. Attendees, Tom, myself, Jeffrey, Drew, Baba, Jim, Charles, and Tino.
And Adam.
And Adam. Continuing down to the timesheets, 223.5 hours billed for Charles, Jeffrey, Tino, Baba, Drew, Jim, and myself. Continuing down. In terms of the work done, beyond the sprint goals, we also added log data for reading SugarLearning items, removed remaining WeChat authentication code that existed within SugarLearning itself as versus SSW identity. We dealt with an emergency bug which broke search. So anyone that was trying to search yesterday had received the broken egg screen that was rectified. We harmonized the way that company codes are set in requests. This work was done to support adding the default language setting as the sprint goal. Corrected a workflow error to ensure that approval status cannot be, that the situation where something that had already been approved is elegantly handled. Jim conducted a spike regarding checking the expenses required for having cross-region transfer of information for AI search. This is for the search functionality that SugarLearning uses. Jeffrey continued his work with the recently viewed edited items displayed. In the planning, you'll see that that has been split out into additional PBIs. Work is continuing on adding EF core tests. And we have our routine monitoring. Adam, do you have any questions about the work that we undertook during the sprint?
No, it's good.
We achieved 56% of the work we intended to conduct for the sprint. There are 11 commits conducted in total for the sprint. Line coverage for tests remains at 19.5%. There were 3 deployments to production over the course of the sprint. Failed requests have decreased from 116 to 660 for the 7 days.
Was there any actual work done on that, or it just happened to decrease?
Just happened to decrease.
Okay. Nice.
But that being said, if we look at the experimental dashboard, I will draw your attention to the big blue bars there. So just zooming in. So we did have a change with our API. So we do have HTTP 201s created now being returned, and we don't have the experimental dashboard updated to filter those out yet. So this is an understood issue.
How can you tell it's a 201?
Well, I investigated.
All right.
As for the browser exceptions you see here, this was the result of the search bug that we experienced yesterday. Experimental work, EF to EF core migration. In terms of a retrospective, Jeffrey was impressed with the quick and efficient review of PBIs today. And Drew was happy that he completed the sprint goal despite being crook for part of the sprint.
Drew was a crook.
Was crook. Sick.
Okay.
In terms of things that didn't go so well, so with regards to the broken search bug yesterday, there was a little bit too much excitement and an attempt to roll back the site rather than roll forward and determine the error. So the team has been debriefed as to how that could be handled smoother in future.
Who decided to roll back?
So
Did we roll back?
also we didn't roll back. It was just for we had one PR prepared for the rollback, but we didn't push it to production.
Okay, I'm confused. Did we roll back?
No.
So did we talk about rolling back?
Yes.
Right, but somebody
And-
decided we should move forward, right?
Yes.
Okay. There's a famous old saying, real men roll forward. Fix the bug and redeploy it. I don't know if it's a famous saying, but it's what I would do.
Moving on, Charles noted that there were less deployments compared with previous sprints.
Yep, I noticed that too.
So that brings us to improvements for the next sprint. Tom discussed options for improving the handling of the situation, ensuring that two people investigate any issues like the search bug yesterday, while other team members communicate with stakeholders and staff. Regarding the deployments, Charles suggested that we organise primary and secondary people for scheduling deployments. For the next sprint, it'll be Drew and Tom. And the final item is from myself, just a reminder to everyone to ensure that all changes and PRs are tested locally. The reason being that, as you'll see in the sprint planning, the next sprint will be very much based on squashing bugs.
Right, okay.
Are you happy with the review in retro?
Well, I would like to know how much further to go on the EF stuff. How do I see?
I can pull it up now.
Okay.
I'll just need a moment.
And then I'm going to ask how much more work on the Chinaify stuff. And which people are working on the Chinaify stuff? Am I right if I say Tino, Baba, and Jim are all working on Chinaify?
They were.
Yes.
So this is where we're at, 52% by PBI for the Chinaify migration and 25% for EF Core.
Okay. I definitely would put that little, like squeeze it up a bit and put it in the sprint review, just so you've got an idea of progress.
I thought that was in the sprint review, wasn't it, mate?
That image?
It's never been in a SugarLearning sprint review.
But it was in Time Pro, but not that exact one. But I had a bit of a, yeah, it's always helpful to know the big epics.
Do you want it included for the next one, or do you want it included in this email?
I'd include in this one before you press send.
I'll do this after the recording.
Okay.
It does bring me to sprint planning.
Okay. So before we do sprint planning, can I just confirm Tino, Baba, and Jim are staying on the team?
Yes.
Correct?
Yes.
Charles will be, how many sprints have you got left, Charles?
1 week.
1 week. Jeffrey?
Same as Charles, yeah.
1 week.
1 week.
And Drew?
You're on
Drew?
mute.
So I essentially have only Friday left for this one because I'm going on.
Okay. You're going on client work too. And Tom, you're staying on this, but you're doing mostly 5 bootcamp.
Yeah, so the plan is after the EF core migration to move to Time Pro, and next week I'm on client work for 3 days.
Okay, all right. And so it's just the China guys continuing on with this, really.
If
Okay.
there's no other change, yeah.
And are they good at finishing the EF core stuff?
I think they're going to be focusing on the China 5.
They're going to continue with the China-Fi stuff, so that means that the EF core stuff remains until someone comes back.
Correct.
Okay.
Or alternatively, they could take it over after finishing the China-Fi stuff.
Okay, all right. Are they abreast of it? If they are not, then one person needs to be working with these guys this sprint. Or probably two. I would probably, otherwise you won't get a very good handover on what's required. Yeah, so I think Jim and Tino probably should work with the guys on the EF core stuff this week so that they know what to do, and also be helping Jeffrey get his search thing bedded down.
Might be worth standing by on that and actually looking at what the current PBIs are.
Okay, good.
Just to quickly jump in, Nick, yeah, I'm working with Jeffrey on his PBI stuff.
Okay, good. That's beautiful.
Right. So just going from the top of the email, and we'll reassess what was just discussed with the items that have been selected. So as per our conversation, forecast for 142, Tino finishing off the company add default language setting, and then Bubba and Charles resolving bug PBIs. This is going to be a bug heavy sprint.
Right, but I'm thinking that the guys in China should not work on any China-Fi stuff they're already familiar with.
There's not much China-Fi stuff.
Okay, all right.
So 142, 2-week sprint because of the public holidays coming up in Australia and China. Makes the next sprint review meeting 7th of May. Attendees, Tom, I, NXE, Charles, Drew, Jim, Tino, Bubba, Adam, and Piers. So as the note here, Charles and Jeffrey will be moving to another project, and Drew is moving to client work as of next week. In terms of the work that we have selected, so that's China-Fi work, but then we have the widget have Jeffrey's work with the widget for recently viewed edit items. We then have numerous bugs to attend to, including approval messages not displayed, which Piers reported this morning. An issue with chunk loading, which appears to be something going wrong with the cache settings for the JavaScript files. Also seeing database exceptions. We have a type mismatch across Angular entities to investigate. We have 3 issues that have arisen since the integration of the latest Vue logging. Have an exception for thumbnail parameters not valid. Translation issues to investigate. Correcting an exception. So this is underlying this is a HTTP 500. Then we have the second PBI that Jeffrey's working on for the viewed edited items. We have one EF core transition PBI. This is for the item content resource repository. We have the final stages of the China-Fi architecture that Jim is wanting to speak to you about for approval for that specific architecture. And we have a spike to determine the SMS provider for China for SugarLearning China.
Okay, so I personally would put all the stuff that I spoke to you before above any of the China 5 work. That can be saved from this sprint. Let's make sure that they're completely across continuing the EF core work.
So there's only got the one EF core work.
Right, okay, so maybe they'll get done and we don't need to worry about it. Is that right?
Well,
there'll be no more EF core work after that.
there's going to be a lot of EF core work still after this.
Yeah. So that's what I'm saying. Charles should work with Tino and Jim to do that together so that he feels comfortable they can continue the rest of the work. The other feature that I really want you to put in is the KPI, PPI.
He's talking about the activity of user PBI. So you can see who's editing SugarLearning items.
Yeah, it's part of the annual review process. So I need to have a view of how many views and edits someone's made. So if one of the China guys can get a handle on that, that would be good. And pause that Chinify work because that can be done after.
So you're happy for these two items to be paused for the KPI item?
Yes, and make sure someone's working with Charles on the EF stuff. And see if you can drag in above this stuff, the KPI, PBI.
I just want to clarify that that is, stand by, just waiting for.
There's one other small thing. It's just a change on the product page, but maybe we can give that to Diego or someone. That's just adding the features URL.
Is this the KPI item?
Correct.
And maybe you should put in brackets KPIs or something. Employee KPIs. Just put in brackets employee KPIs.
Maybe just check you're happy with that PBI as well, Adam, because I don't think you
And I can scroll down. But yeah, something similar to that. Makes sense?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Okay, so team, what's the estimate?
If you just want to add another column
to the comments, please.
Right.
Say again, Tom?
Can you scroll down to the comments, please? Because I asked Piers, I haven't seen his response yet.
I'm not sure I fully understood your comment, Tom.
Yeah, well, the screenshot shows slightly something ambiguous to what you're asking in the PBI, because if you look up, it shows the author or based on the author, and then the order is by last updated.
I think what you want to be able to see is I go to a page and it's got all of the edits that I have made, Piers Sinclair, of a SugarLearning item.
Yeah.
And then I can drill down and see what those edits are. For example, I could see, oh, I changed a whole bunch of stuff in this standard.
Gentlemen, we seem to be going a bit beyond a summary at this point. Adam, may I cease the recording to continue this discussion?
Yes, no, I think that's good.
All right. The intention will be to upload this video here. Gentlemen, catch you next week.
Yeah.
Thank you. Bye.
Yep.